And the headline reads, the DOJ tells police and fire departments that it is racist to expect employees to know basic math. Firefighter, and this is stemming from a firefighter test that asked job candidates how many 60-foot hoses would they need to bring if a fire was 350 feet away. Seems like a pretty fair question to me. Let's go ahead and read this. The Biden-Harris Department of Justice has undertaken a slew of lawsuits against local police and fire departments, alleging that it is racist to require new hires entrusted with public safety to know basic math. The lawsuit undermined Kamala Harris's attempt to brand herself as a moderate in the final weeks of the presidential campaign, with the suits both suggesting a dim view of blacks by the administration and employing the theory of disparate impact. The radical theory holds that anytime there are statistical racial disparities, racism must be the cause, even if no one can explain how. On Friday, the DOJ's Civil Rights Suit Unit filed a lawsuit against South Bend, Indiana, saying that South Bend uses a written examination that discriminates against black applicants and a physical fitness test that discriminated against female applicants, the Daily Wire has previously reported. But this was just one of the lawsuits which claim that the tests are racist because blacks fail them at a higher percentage than whites, and require cash awards to be paid to those black men who failed them. Most blacks generally pass the test, and the lawsuits do not explain how the test can be racist against only some blacks. Blacks who pass the test are excluded from these financial payouts. So, to explain that paragraph, basically what's happening is there is a test, obviously this is the math test, and it turns out that more white people on average are passing the test than black people. So therefore, it must mean that the test is geared towards white people and is racist against black people. That's the conclusion that the DOJ is making. Now, most blacks actually pass the test, is what it's saying, and the lawsuit does nothing to explain how the test can be racist for some black people and not racist for others. And those blacks who pass the test are excluded from the financial payouts that the DOJ are pursuing. So let's take a look at the financial payout here in this next paragraph. It says, last week, Durham, North Carolina settled with the DOJ, saying blacks failed the test required to become a firefighter more often, and employers should identify and eliminate practices that have disparate impacts based on race. It said that the Durham Fire Department must pay nearly $1 million to the people who have failed the test, and to hire up to 16 of them. I mean, that is just a great way to use taxpayer dollars, don't you think, the DOJ? See, the DOJ does not care about your money, does not care about resources. And this is the thing, right? I mean, constantly we see this time and time again with these liberal Democratic administrations. They just throw money around. Like, they just fine states, not understanding that when you find a department, right? When you find a police department, fire department, any sort of public service, you're not finding that actual department. They could care less. You're finding the people of that state and of that county who are paying and funding that by taking that away from them through that public service. So while the DOJ said that the tests were not relevant to actually being a good firefighter, an online practice test suggests that it is directly relevant and that people could die if these firefighters were hired, the firefighters who are failing the test, that is. One question asked, if the building is 350 feet away, how many 60-foot hoses would be needed? Seems like a pretty relevant question to me. If we get a call out and we look over and we say, okay, here's the fire hydrant. The building is this far. We have this many 60-foot hoses. I need you to go to the truck and grab however many hoses we need to reach the building to be able to save these people. And that person can't do the math to figure out how far the building away is. Yeah, that's going to be a problem. I think that's fair to say that basic math skills should be required in that situation. And this is just one of many scenarios in which, police officers, fire departments may need math. Math is just a very basic skill that you may need to practice in this, okay? So they give another great example in this article that we'll look at here, and it's along the same lines of math for these departments. So this is the law enforcement side of it, okay? So the article says this. The test that the DOJ is claiming is racist is designed to ensure that cops are at least smart enough as an elementary school student, okay? So this is, are you smarter than a fifth grader level stuff here? And can serve residents by, for example, adding up the total value of the stolen property when items are stolen valued at $400, $40, $1,500, or $100, right? So you have four items, they're all stolen. One is $400, one's $40, one's $1,500, one's $100. You add those up, right? So 1,500 plus 100, 1,600 plus 40, 1,640 plus 400, $2,040. Basic math. Anybody should be able to do it. Makes a lot of sense. No reason why you shouldn't do that. Okay, and here's just one off the top of my head. Here's just another example, okay? Let's just say you're a police officer, okay, and you're sitting along the highway and, you got your radar out and someone speeds by and they go 100 miles an hour. Pull them over for speeding. Go up to the side of the car. He's like, you know how fast you're going? Person's like, no, officer, how fast was I going? You say, you're going 100 miles an hour. They say, oh my gosh, like, what's the speed limit? And they say, it's 65 miles an hour. And the guy says, wow, I didn't realize I was going that fast. How fast over the speed limit was I then? And then the officer looks at them and says, how dare you? How dare you ask me what the difference between 165 is? You racist. You racist pig. Now, obviously, they would say the cops are the pigs, but regardless, this officer is going to call the guy a pig. And in this whole exchange, the officer is basically just offended that this person is racist because they expect them to know basic math. So, I guess you could say it is very racist for cops to be expected to add and subtract, maybe even divide. I don't know. We're getting a little dicey here. If they have to divide, that would be a whole other beast. Ending the article here, we'll read it through. It says, when police officers don't meet the basic standards and are hired, they sometimes abuse members of the public, sometimes resulting in still more accusations of racism, even if those members of the public are black, right? Last year, for example, the media pointed to the Memphis Police Department allegedly repeatedly beating people as an example of the police brutality. However, the twist was that it turned out that the police department was majority black and were hired despite not meeting the standards that are usually required for the position. So, do you see how idiotic this is? You literally have a community who's black. You have police officers who are hired against protocol and are black. They beat and abuse their own members of the community, their own black fellow members of the community. And then the office is accused of racism. It's a vicious cycle. It's like a dog trying to chase its own tail. It's just getting nowhere. Ending the article here. After D.C. Mayor Marion Barry made firehouses in the nation's capital a racial spoils program, firefighters repeatedly turned out to be gun-toting violent criminals. Public outrage over the hiring program culminated in 2014 after a 77-year-old man had a heart attack directly in front of the fire station, begged for help, but none of the firefighters came to his aid, and his family sued for $7 million. So this, along with many other examples, is just goes to show the idiocracy of the DEI institution, how it works. And honestly, if there is any institution we need to safeguard from DEI and from this left-wing agenda, it has to be these departments. These are the departments on which merit is most important. Now, there's many others that are also important, like doctors, pilots, all those things as well. And I will have segments about those in the future, probably. But focusing on these, right? It's one thing if you're a DEI consultant. It's one thing if you're, a DEI lecturer or you just talk about DEI and do all those things. Those are damaging and stupid enough. But if you are literally a member of the community that has been hired by that community to protect and serve, to put your life on the line on a day-to-day basis, and to be competent enough to enforce the law and to save lives, I think it's fair to say that you should know some basic math and that you should be able to be the most qualified. We should be searching for the most qualified candidates for these positions, regardless of race, regardless of skin color. And it just blows my mind that we have to even say that. The fact that we have to say that regardless of race, we should be hiring the best candidates is controversial and racist. Just goes to show how far down the slippery slope we've come to the DEI grift. So that's my rant for the day. I'm not going to go on anymore. It's going to make me burst a blood vessel. So